Well, hello again, sports fans. This is a bit of an unusual day for me. I've been joined today by two other FPV pilots, Nick from New Zealand with his FX61 and the Zackster from the north side of Canberra with his FPV equipped mini Talon. The plan was to do a bit of a conga line around the local area and try and capture some video of each other's planes. Unfortunately, the FX61 didn't survive the trimming flight and is sitting in disgrace in the pits minus a wing. At this point in the flight, the Zackster's been following me around on a familiarisation flight around the field for a couple of laps, and I've just let him get in front, and the intention is to follow him around the loosely agreed course that we've been flying. The mini Talon's much faster than the Ranger and a lot more nimble, and I'm having trouble keeping up with him at this stage. And at this point of the flight I actually lose sight of him against the background of the trees. He's gone past the point where I thought he'd turn, so I just keep on going in the hopes that I'll see him when he hits that clearing up ahead. It's been cleared to make a path for the high tension power lines that run through there as part of the Snowy Mountains hydro scheme. From the Mobius footage it looks like the Zackster decided to fly down the power lines, but I didn't spot him and ended up just turning back down the road where I thought we were going to go. But I do pick him up again when he starts crossing that big paddock on the right of the track. He's down fairly low, so I push the throttle all the way forward and put the nose down in an effort to try and catch up to him. I get fairly close but actually end up overflying him. I pull back on the throttle expecting him to come out below me, but once again he manages to elude me. He's talking to me and describing the terrain he's flying over, and I'm guessing that he's in that large green paddock to the right of the track, but I can't see him on the headset, and it's only now that I'm looking at the Mobius footage that I can see that he was well in front of me. So I just continue on the course that we were planning on flying, and in the hopes that I'll see him crossing the terrain at some point. But it's fairly dull, so I'll just speed this section up. So I'm still flying down the strip without spotting him when the Zackster tells me that he's just starting to turn down the creek, and from looking at the video footage I was able to spot where he was, but at the time there was nothing on my monitor. I just turned down the creek when I got to it in the hopes that I'd spot him below. Once again I couldn't spot him on the low definition video feed that I'm watching on the monitor, and it wasn't until he broke into the clean green paddock that I did actually spot him and was able to start chasing again. I haven't really been happy with the Ranger's performance since I repaired it after its last crash. It seems to be a lot slower and a lot mushier in response to the control inputs. It also seems to be consuming a lot more battery power. Nonetheless, I do manage to make up some ground on the Zackster's mini Talon this time. I'm finding it a lot easier to keep him in sight while we're flying over these open fields. It doesn't last long though. It looks like he's put the hammer down and I lose him up against the skyline. He's describing what he's doing and I'm trying to follow his directions, but not seeing anything on the monitor. Though it looks like the Mobius did pick him up, so I couldn't have been too far off track. He was just too far in front of me to see on the standard definition monitor. So I turned down the track and just maintained cruising speed and hope that I pick him up at some stage further ahead. So Zach's still calling out his heading and altitude, and I'm doing my best to follow, but I don't see hide nor hair of him. So it looks like he's opened a fairly substantial lead on me, so I hit the throttle as hard as I can and try and get back to the strip where I hope to pick him up. So I eventually noticed some intermittent flashes of white against the mottled background of the hill and decide to follow them, hoping that it's him, and as the Mobius footage shows it was, but I don't really get a clear sight on my video monitor until he hits the open field once again. So he's still a long way ahead and down quite low, but I'm able to make up some ground when he turns and I cut the corner and put the nose down. It looks like he may be heading for the main track, which is a good thing because it would certainly make my job easier if I know where he's going. It looks like he's slowing down, which allows me to make up even more ground on him, but then he suddenly drops down below my nose and I have to pull back on the throttle and hope that he'll come out below me. Which he does, but he's down at almost grass level and there's no way I'm going down there because there's a power line runs across from that pole to the dam on the left. And he apparently has hit it, as he reports that the mini Talon took a knock and asked if there was any wires there. She still looks like she's flying okay, so it couldn't have been much of a hit. So I'm pretty pleased that I'm still in contact, even though now that he's against the background of the hill I'm only getting the occasional white flash. Once again he heads down low and starts following the line of the creek bed, but I decide to maintain the altitude because I know that the creek winds around behind the back of the hill, which creates quite a significant radio shadow, which has knocked out my video on more than one occasion in the past. I noticed that my OSD is telling me that my battery voltage is starting to sag, so I decide to pull out at this point and just do one more circuit and come back to the strip and land. As I turn away, I'm relieved to catch a glimpse of the mini Talon on its way back, so it looks like the Zackster survived his little visit to the dark lands. So I'm relatively pleased with my first effort at following another FPV plane around. I'm a little bit disappointed that I couldn't keep up with the mini Talon, but it is a fairly quick plane. And the Ranger certainly isn't performing at its best at the moment. So the battery voltage is really quite low and I decide to get it down on the ground as quick as I can. But I come in too fast and end up trying to abort the landing and go around. But when I hit full throttle and full elevator, it just doesn't have enough oomph to get me up over this ridge and she goes in. I can hear that the motor's still going, but she doesn't respond to any commands from the transmitter. She hasn't gone into fail-safe return to home mode, so I'm a bit mystified, and while I'm trying to work it out, Nick offers to go and pick the ringer up. There doesn't appear to be much damage apart from the Mobius camera mount being snapped off from the gimbal. So Nick walks it back with the motor still going. It looks like the battery has just about died. It starts to give up the ghost just before Zack walks over and helps Nick pull out the battery. So it looks like the Zackster was pretty lucky to get away with flying through those power lines. There's only the slightest of nicks on the tail. I'll be very interested to see the footage of that little incident. Hopefully he's not discouraged from having another return visit at some stage in the future. It's disappointing that Nick wasn't able to join us in the air on this trip, but hopefully the ZX61 will be back in one piece and hitting the skies in the very near future. So watch this space.